Good morning, gang. Good morning. Welcome back to this week's altcoin update. First and foremost, remember nothing discussed today is financial advice. It's just for educational purposes only. And now that's out of the way, let's jump into the chart, shall we? And get into some zero bullshit TA, because that's what you're here for. So today we're going to be covering Link, ING, and Arbitrum. Is it? ARB? Either way. I don't really care. And take a look at what's been happening and what trade setups we've got potentially on the horizon. Okay, so as we all know, Bitcoin has had a big pump to the upside. Link's had a big pump to the upside. Some other altcoins have too. And still there's some alts that do look like absolute trash. So here we go. Let's bring back the old TA. Now obviously we've had this range on this chart now for well over a year. And we've broken the local highs to the upside. Okay, so does this now mean this is now game on and up only moon time? Not in my eyes. Okay, I need more proof. And this is my thought process right now. So you can see here, obviously this is the range fib tool that we use in the group, and the reason for the outside deviations is to catch deviations. So until price action gets above this outer deviation, I'm still cautious. Okay, this is not a place I'll be looking for longs because I'm not prepared to chase into a big pump. Obviously, you guys know if you watch the videos going back all the way to June, obviously we were talking about this deviation, we got the retest, and we had a nice long opportunity. Again, just continue playing the range. Okay, now when we came back up to range highs, I was talking about this on, it was either last week's video or the week before. We had local liquidity above these highs, okay, which we blasted straight through. Marginal pullback, nothing at all to scream about. And then the other liquidity we had was above these highs, because obviously these highs had never been tested since they were created. So we had the first high, this was lower again. So we never grabbed the liquidity, which in turn, once we pushed up into it, this liquidity helped squeeze price further up. And we could see it was a short squeeze because we could see that on the order flow. Okay. So what needs to happen now? Well, for bullish continuation, okay, this short squeeze that happened here now needs to turn into fresh longs, fresh interest in the asset. So that we need open interest rising, we need volume rising, we need CVD rising, we need everything rising. Okay, so therefore that means people are interested in longing this and taking it higher. If there's no interest in longing this, then we can look to roll back over. Now, is this a place right here where I'd be looking to short? Not necessarily. Okay. If, and again, this is all ifs and buts, if we get back into the range and get acceptance back into the range, then yes, there's potentially a short trigger on the cards there. And this whole thin move could quite easily be retraced back down to looking at the EQ initially. And if that didn't hold, then we'll be looking back down at value area low, once again, which would be coming around $6, give or take, or the overall range lows. Okay, and then effectively, if we get acceptance back into this range, then we're just trading this range again. Okay, now you might think that I'm being overly bearish when I say that, but I'm not. This is just if this happens. If. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know exactly what's going to happen. All I know is if something happens, then I will look for shorts. Okay, now what happens if we just come back down to the range highs? It gets defended and we get a long trigger. Well, there is a long trigger there. Okay, if this gets defended. Now, bear in mind, there's not a lot of volume around this level. Okay, it probably will be defended because it's a solid breakout region. So there's one option there. Now, what happens if it does continue up? Okay, well, if it does continue up, first and foremost, we've got this outer deviation to contend with, but if we flip this and continue up, then we can start looking at higher price targets. Okay, so the first ones to look at is this old consolidation here. So what I'm going to do, I get the old volume profile, throw it on this, and we can see here where the volume is. Okay, let's throw this onto a weekly chart so we can see this a little bit clearer. There we go. That's better. Okay, so if we do head higher, then we can start looking at trading this old range. Okay, so we've got an old range here. So if we get acceptance, again, acceptance back into this range, then we can look at trading this range, which effectively your range lows are coming in anywhere around $12.50, and your range highs are looking at around $18. So if we get acceptance into this, then we can start looking at trading this range. Now with a focus on the EQ and the point of control, which is coming in around 1560. Okay, so this is a big sticky zone right here in the middle. Okay, so if you are long and somehow we do get up here, okay, it can happen. It can happen. Then this would be a solid take profit zone. And then see what happens next. If you reject here, then trade it back down to range lows. Do range lows hold? Yes, no, no, okay. We trade it lower. Yes, then we can look for longs. Okay. So that's to the upside. That's to the downside. It's quite simple. We are still range bound overall. Okay. When do we not become range bound? Well, quite simply, when we take out the overall highs. Okay. Until we take out the overall highs, we've still got SR levels within this to contend with. So there is still resistance. There are still chances for pullbacks. I'm not saying that we can't go up and then face these pullbacks and continue a trend, because we can. Okay, that's what happens in a trend. You will rally, you will consolidate, you will rally, and you will consolidate. Okay, so if you are looking for shorts, then you're looking for shorts on the consolidation leg. If you're looking for longs, then you're looking for longs on the impulse leg. Okay, and it's literally as simple as that, but we still have some well-defined SR levels and ranges within this. So that's what I'm looking at with Link right now. Do we get a sustained break and continue up, or do we get acceptance back into the old range and everyone then turns all doom and gloom once again? But for us as range traders, it's just bread and butter. It's great. Okay, that's Link. Next, INJ. Oh, we've got some Alt.AI on this chart. Let's have a look at this. Not looked at INJ since, wow, going back quite a long time. Where are we right now? Well, it's pretty obvious. We've rejected off this consolidation, EQ. Okay, so again, Alt.AI still works. Right, so looking at this, obviously we've had the bottom range here, we've had the deviation, the big deviation, we've got back in, we've had acceptance, and we've continued to push up. So we are in, still making higher lows and higher highs. Okay, so we are in a local uptrend until proven otherwise. So the overall bias on a high time frame, this is a weekly by the way, is locally we're in an uptrend. Okay, so EQ here be a solid take profit. If you did long into this breakout, which again it's not the type of trade that I'd be doing, but if you did long into this, then there'd be a solid TP1 right there. Okay, if we continue higher, then we can be looking at range highs. Now at range highs, this will be key for me with this, because we've got all these wicks here. All these wicks into range highs. So therefore we can assume that there's liquidity above these. So if we come a little bit higher than the range and then deviate and get back into the range, then we've got short triggers all day long. Okay. And then once again, this is just continuing this range here. Okay. This is not a spot here on a high time frame that I'd be looking for longs. Okay, because you're longing straight into resistance, you're longing into the EQ. Okay, let's get rid of this for now. Now, curious to throw on an overall volume profile here because I want to see where we're up to. Okay, so all the volume's down at the bottom, which is good. That's healthy. That's a healthy move. Okay. Now, what happens if we reject it and we start rolling over? Well, if we start rolling over, this zone becomes critical. Okay, especially if you're a uber crazy bull. Okay, or you're a long-term bag holder. This zone becomes critical. If we come back down to this, change structure, as in, obviously, we're looking at weekly now, if we come down to a daily. Okay, come down here, show some bullish strength, then you've potentially got a long trigger. If you've got a long trigger, then we can trade it back up towards the EQ, likely of taking out the current highs as a TP1, and then overall as a TP2. That's assuming that this holds. Now, if this doesn't hold, then that starts to look a bit nasty. Because if this doesn't hold, then we can look at retracing this whole move up back down to the origin of the move, which will be down towards that EQ. Okay. Round this EQ, do we get a long trigger? Yes, no, yes, great, cool. Trade it back up towards range high, and we treat this as resistance once again. If we're not given a long trigger, then ultimately I'll be looking back down at range lows. That's what I'll be watching. And then at range lows, you kind of got to hold your breath then to see, does this hold for a long trigger? Okay, so this is what I meant, similar to on the link chart. Until we break new all-time highs, we've still got lots of SR levels and ranges to contend with. So I'm not uber bullish and I'm not uber bearish. Until we break new all-time highs, we're still in technically a sideways crab market. Okay, some will say, yes, it's the start of the bull. Some will say it's just a dead cat bounce within a bear. Quite frankly, I couldn't care less. Couldn't care less. All I know as a trader is we've got some solid levels to trade from. So therefore, we can make money if price goes up, and we can make money if price goes down. Okay, so that's ANJ. Arbitrum. Arbitrum, is that right? Yeah, I think it is. Right, here we go. I haven't looked at this one in a while either. We can tell because we've not pulled on our range fib tool. So let's drag this over even further and incorporate all price action. There we go. Right, so we can see here. This is why this range fib tool is so powerful, by the way. So obviously this is the range that we've had on effectively since back here. So this is back in like July region. And what we've done is we've come down, we've come out to the outer deviation, rested along it, and then come back down to the outside deviation before getting a bounce. So right now, we are still below the overall, for me, the true range lows. So for me right here, yes, there's probably low time frame plays to be had, but personally, I wouldn't be interested in this. In fact, let's go on to the daily chart so we can see this a bit clearly. Where would I be interested in this is getting back into the range, holding the range lows, which are effectively $1.09. Then I'd be happy with getting involved in longs, because then that's going to show me that there's some strength within this altcoin. If there's no strength in this altcoin, I have no interest in trading down here until we see that strength. Now, once again, some people are going to sit here and you're either a bag holder and you're still underwater, or you're going to say, oh, well, Spitty, you're going to miss out on a 40% pump. I really don't care. This goes quite in line with what we discussed. Was it Gala? The reason why I wasn't interested in longing this, and I want it to get back above this level, because I want to see the strength first. Because that, for me, then becomes the safer trade, which is the same with Arbitrum. It's the same. The safer option for me would be get back in here, effectively take out these highs without a significant pullback, hold the range lows, and then I'd be interested in longs. And if we do get that set up, then first and foremost, looking at these overall highs, most likely into this EQ as a take profit one. If it gets above that and continues up, then we've got a bit of a sticky zone here around 165, but then we can then start looking at range highs. Now, on the same note as that, would I be interested in shorting this? No, I wouldn't. Because I'm not in the market of trying to predict lows or the low for an altcoin that's got no history, no prior history to give us some SR levels from. Okay? So for me right now, this is just a patience game. Get back in here and yep, fair enough. We'll trade it. Until then, there's no interest in this at all. Okay? It's just another altcoin. There's thousands more that have got way cleaner setups than this. Right. Hopefully you've learned something. If you have, hit that like button. If you want an altcoin covering next week, then let us know down in the comments. And until next time, gang, as you were, bye-bye.